Hello, everybody, and welcome to my 2022 March Madness predictions for the bracket here. Only a couple days away from brackets locking when the first game tips off on Thursday. What would it be, March 17th, I believe. About 2 days from when I'm recording this video. And yeah, should be fun. And I like watching college basketball, I like analyzing teams and doing all that, and filling out brackets. So I thought I'd give my 2 cents on, filling out a bracket, giving some reasons why, some teams I like, some picks I like, and hopefully just help people maybe win their bracket pool or, make up their mind on a team and just see what my picks are. Doing on this NCAA March Madness Live, site, the official site. And we're going to go region by region, round by round, and just do picks. So I got some research on paper here. You can see that stats basically just not available on the analytics they bring up here. Stuff like record, what conference they're from, if they're the champions, how many bracket teams they've beaten, how many top 25 teams, what's the record against both of those, if they've lost to any teams outside of either of those parameters, so the top 25 or bracket teams, how many players they have scoring 10 or more points a game, stuff like that. First game up here, we got Georgia versus Gonzaga, 1 seed Georgia, you got the 1 seed Gonzaga versus the 16 seed Georgia State. I like Gonzaga. Analysts like Gonzaga. 1 seed, 16 seed, best team in the country, arguably. Not much explanation needed there. Yeah, but then we move into an 8-9 matchup. These fucking coin tosses that are damn near impossible to predict, other than just pure luck, a 50-50 chance. Both teams, I think, are very solid squads. I could see either winning this game, but personally, and analysts seem to favor, in most categories at least, Memphis. But I'm going to go with the 8 seed Boise State out of the Mountain West Conference here. Boise State, not just that they're higher seed, but the Mountain West versus the AAC, which is what Memphis is in. I feel like I'm more impressed with the Mountain West. I know AAC has, I guess Memphis, but also Houston. But Boise State, I think Wyoming, who's playing right now as I'm recording this video, and losing by 1 to Indiana. They've got them if they make the tournament. They've got Colorado State. Who else? They have a couple other teams, I believe. A lot of Mountain West, very tough, good division or conference this year. I think Boise State's record. I think they're a little more tested against quality teams overall, other than just Memphis, Houston games. That's really the only thing that speaks volumes about Memphis. I think overall Boise State's had a harder schedule overall throughout all the games they've played. I think they've played more teams that are in the brackets or in the top 25 combined. As a whole, they've got just a little more impressive of a resume. I'm not saying Memphis isn't impressive. They also have a fairly impressive resume, beating Houston twice and losing to them once. I just feel like Boise State's. I feel like I like them a little more. Either way, I wouldn't discredit either choice here, though. 8-9's hard to pick. Next, you got the 5 seed Uconn Huskies versus the 12 seed New Mexico State. Analysts seem to suggest that you pick Uconn, the 5 seed here, based off stats. The stats I take into consideration heavily are percentages when it comes to shooting, like free throw, field goal, and most importantly to me at least is 3-point, because teams that can shoot 3-point well and get hot more easily, I think tend to just be a little more secure in being able to get wins. If teams get hot from 3 in March, it's over for the other team. They just get hot and they can win a game or two. It's all you need. Any goddamn team in the fucking bracket can beat, one team on any given day or random day because they decide to be good at basketball and be able to make a lot of threes. Obviously, it's more predicament. It's more of a predictive measurement if you already are predisposed to shooting a high percentage of 3 points and shooting them well. so that's why I like that. But stuff like offensive and defensive efficiency, points per game allowed, um, stuff like that, rebounds, kind of bench points, all taken into consideration. I think UConn's got really good bigs too, which I like. Um, UConn out of the Big East too. Overall, I think it's a better conference than what New Mexico State plays in. I think they've been playing pretty decently recently. Have a much more proven record against like quality top 25 or bracket teams. Just in general, playing in the Big East, you run into a lot more competent teams, and New Mexico State really has a chance to. New Mexico State really doesn't have anything that pops out to me as a 12th seed to really give me a reason to pick them. There's no particular stat or win or anything or any player they have that really just screams like, oh, maybe they could, snag a game here. There's nothing special about them. Not a terrible squad. I mean, they're a fine basketball team. It's just UConn, I think, is more solid. Next, you got Arkansas and Vermont. Vermont is favored stat-wise in this game, going purely off of that. The teams here, beyond just the statistical view of either team, Arkansas here, obviously out of the SEC, much harder division than the MAC, I believe. Or overall, SEC is one of the hardest divisions. Arkansas is 25-8 on the year, 6-2 versus bracket teams, 4-1 versus top 25 teams. Lost 5 games though to teams outside of those parameters, which is a little bit concerning. But since you're in the SEC, maybe those teams aren't as bad of losses as it's really making it out to be. 4 players who score 10 or more points a game. On the other side, what Vermont has going for them is they're statistically a very good team. The stats suggest them. They shoot better field goals. They shoot better 3 points. Stats heavily favor them, which I always like. I love their 3-point percentage. I think they shoot a lot better than Arkansas, obviously, here, which is a pretty key factor in determining a big upset like this. Is if this team can shoot threes well and they can get hot more easily from 3 and just make their shots, they're a lot more predisposed. Vermont's obviously a champion in their specific conference, which is the let's take a look here. The American East champs. No, my mistake there. I thought they were in the MAC, but I think that coach was in the MAC. That's why I got confused. 28-5 on the year, which is a pretty solid record. 2-0 versus other teams in the bracket. 0-1 versus the one top 25 team that didn't make the bracket that they played. They've had 4 losses outside of those parameters, which is actually, I believe, 1 less than Arkansas has. Obviously coming in a little more hot too, and they've got 2 players that scored 10 or more points a game. But Vermont, they can score. They've been playing very well. They're hot. Statistical analysis would suggest that they could definitely win this game, and I have no reason not to take this upset. I like this upset here. Arkansas, not a terrible team. Also a little biased on me. I just really hate Arkansas, particularly their coach. I think he's really annoying. So any reason I can have to take Vermont, I'll take it. Next up, we got the 6th seed Alabama versus the winner of the 11th seed playing game, which contains Rutgers versus Notre Dame. Personally, in the playing game, I think Notre Dame is going to win. Rutgers probably could win, but they're a little all over the board, a little more inconsistent than Notre Dame is. So I kind of just trust Notre Dame a little more than I trust Rutgers. But an overview of the teams here. I'm a Notre Dame fan, so I really want them to win the playing game, and I'd love to see them beat Alabama. But taking my personal bias aside, Alabama, statistically speaking, in most categories, I guess, is favored and would be favored to win in a matchup against Rutgers, and I guess by extent, since they say Rutgers would beat Notre Dame, would probably beat Notre Dame, statistically speaking, as well. So they got that going for them. They play in the SEC, which again is a very good conference, which they got that going for them. 19-13, which isn't a great record, but when you look at Alabama's schedule, these guys just had one of the most brutal schedules in all of college basketball. Versus bracket teams, Alabama's 9-7. Uh, that's 16 games against bracket teams. That's a large chunk of their games. They've played 9 games with top 25 teams and won 5 out of 4 of them. Fairly solid winning records in both those categories, but they have lost 6 games to people outside of both of those parameters. So they can be a little spotty, a little inconsistent, but then again, so can Rutgers. Notre Dame's a little more consistent, but doesn't have the quality wins, or as many quality wins, I should say. They did beat Kentucky, I guess, but they don't have as many quality wins as either of these teams. They got 3 players who scored 10 or more points a game as well. On the other hand, the 11 seeds here, as I said, I think Notre Dame's going to win this just because they're a little more consistent, and I don't really care for Rutgers that much. As far as if Rutgers wins the game, though, I think Alabama would be able to get by. If Notre Dame wins, I'd be a little more concerned. They're by far the best 3-point shooting team, or just shooting team, out of the 3 teams by a margin of, I believe, about 4% over Rutgers. Notre Dame, 22-10, not a bad record. 3-6 versus bracket teams, and 1-1 versus top 25. So still fairly battle tested, but obviously lacking the, positive records in those categories. Someone like Alabama is 4 losses to team outside of those. They play in the ACC, which isn't as strong as either of the conferences these 2 teams play in. And they got 4 players a game that score 10 points or more a game. So that's obviously a plus for them. I think if Rutgers gets in, I'd like Alabama. I know Alabama's been a little spotty, but so is Rutgers. And Alabama I find a little more excusable just because I think they've had one of the hardest schedules I've ever seen from researching the teams this year. If Notre Dame wins and faces Alabama, I would like to believe Notre Dame could beat an Alabama team, and I feel like they have more potential to maybe be a safer pick to beat Alabama, but I still think Alabama would cause a lot of problems for them. They're a solid team, but I just don't know particularly if they're up to the task. They lost to Virginia Tech in their conference tournament, and I didn't like what I saw from them when I watched that game. Not incredibly impressed as of recently, like the last game or 2 Notre Dame has played, which isn't great going into the tournament. But then again, I wasn't impressed with Alabama or Rutgers particularly in the games I watched of them recently. So this game is a real toss-up for a 6-11 game. It could go either way. I'll take the playing game teams just because personal bias of Notre Dame, really, as well as I don't care for Alabama's spottiness. And I think if Notre Dame wins, I feel a little more comfortable with a more solid, winning team. And all of these teams have had rather bad performances coming out into the tournament recently, so nothing really stands out there. And I like Notre Dame has more scores. They shoot the ball better, so I think they can get a win. As we got Texas Tech versus Montana State. Let's see here. Montana State. We got the boys out of the. Actually, let's do Texas Tech first. The higher. They deserve that. They deserve it. The 3 seed Texas Tech out of the Big 12, 25-9 on the year. Bracket team records is 9-6 against bracket teams, 7-4 against top 25 teams, and they've had 3 losses to teams outside of those parameters, and they've got 2 players who score 10 or more points a game. On the other hand, here we got Montana State out of the Big Sky tournament. They're the champions of that said conference, 27-7 on the year. 0-1 versus bracket teams and 0-0 versus top 25 teams. And they got 3 people who scored 10 or more points a game, which is 1 more than Texas Tech. Obviously out of the Big Sky Conference, which obviously isn't as good as the Big 12. Less battle-tested than someone like Texas Tech. Both teams, I think, are actually fairly solid squads. Texas Tech played fairly well coming into the tournament. I didn't like what I saw against them when they played Kansas, but then again, that could just be because they were playing Kansas. Well, the problem is those only got two players who score 10 or more points a game. They don't really have any freak. They don't really have a guy. All of them. It's a fairly well balanced team. So I don't really think they have anyone in particular who Montana State could just absolutely not in a million years at least somewhat control or manage. Montana State favored statistically in this game, obviously. Obviously, a little of that could be, you know, throughout some of the stats could be padded a little from the Big Sky conference they play in. Um, but yeah, I do like that they're favored statistically, even if it is by a slim margin. I do like how Montana State shoots the ball considerably better, um, free throw and 3 point, and I guess field goal percentage wise than Texas Tech. This is gonna be a pretty controversial pick, but give me Montana State 14 over 3. I like Montana State. I think this is an underrated upset. Texas Tech's not a bad team. I just think Montana State's got the capability to beat these guys. I think it's going to be a good game. I think this is an upset that, if it pans out, can definitely separate you from a lot of other brackets and give you a real edge. It is a considerable risk, but sometimes you got to take risks to really stand out from the crowd and actually win. So give me Montana State. Next, you got Davidson versus Michigan State. Obviously, 7th seed of Michigan State. Traditional bracket team, little blue blood action going on here. Out of the Big Ten, not the champions. Obviously, great coach here. And Izzo. It's March. It's Michigan State, blue blood team, very traditional bracket team. Analytics seem to favor Davidson, which I understand. They do have fairly decent stats. I don't care for the division they play in or the conference they play in. I think it's fairly weak, especially compared to Michigan State. I think Michigan State's more battle tested than Davidson. I think it's a more traditional team. I think Davidson has the capability of getting an upset here, and I could see Davidson winning. But I feel more comfortable going with Michigan State in this game. I think they're going to be better prepared and coached. I think they've got more talent. I think they're more battle tested. Yes, they're a little spotty, but I think overall they'll be able to handle Davidson. I also think Davidson. Michigan State's not particularly incredibly hot and got a lot of momentum coming in, but neither does Davidson. They lost their conference championship to Richmond, a team I don't feel like should have really been competing with them that much. I'm not overly impressed with Davidson. I could be wrong. Davidson could make a run, win a game or two, make me eat my words. That's the same thing for a lot of the picks I've chosen, honestly. But I just feel a little more comfortable with Michigan State. Davidson, not a team I've really seen play outside of the one game with Richmond, which obviously didn't go their way, so maybe a little bias there towards them. Other upsets I've seen play, I feel a little more comfortable with. I've seen them win. I've seen how they operate. I like Michigan State here. Duke versus CSU Fullerton. I like Duke, favored by analysts. Obviously a 2 seed over a 15 seed. Duke, very talented, well coached. Not much explanation needed there, in my opinion. That's Baylor versus Norfolk State. I like Baylor, 1 seed out of the Big 12. Norfolk State, okay, 16 seed, and probably the worst 1 seed here, to be fair, but not going to happen. Better talented, better in basically everything suggested by stats. I mean, it's just not much explanation needed there. University of North Carolina versus Marquette. This is an interesting matchup, as is basically every 8-9 game. Very hard to predict, just like most of these are going to be. I could be wrong on all of these, or I could hit on all of these. Go 2 for 2. You just never know with these 8-9 games. Obviously, North Carolina here is suggested by the metrics presented here. I have arranged before the show, and I think I like North Carolina in this game. Give me the 8 seed again. North Carolina, Obviously, a little better coach, probably. Well, not probably. I don't like Shaka Smart. Better coached. Obviously, a more traditional blue blood team here. Very talented. Very good at scoring and getting boards. Very lengthy. I think this team has been playing fairly well. Beat Duke recently, obviously. Definitely has the capability to beat this team and maybe even Baylor. We'll get to that later. I think they play in fairly similarly ranked or talented conferences. I think the Big East might be a little better than the ACC, but then again, they have played the likes of Duke, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech recently, which I guess is good at basketball now. Yeah, just North Carolina, just feel a little more comfortable with. Marquette, not overly impressed with their resume based off some of the stats they like record, battle test in this, loss, stuff like that. I just trust North Carolina, their team, their talent, their coaching, their tradition, and a little more. I trust Marquette to get a win here. St. Mary versus the winner of the 12 seed playing game, which is Wyoming versus Indiana. St. Mary suggested pick by the analytics here. Interesting game between Wyoming and Indiana. That game is literally happening with about 6 minutes and 40 seconds left to go in the first half as I am recording this as of now. As of now, Indiana's winning 13-12. Fairly close game. I can see it going either way. And I'm not going to postpone this video until one of them wins, so we'll just consider both of them potential players because this video is going to be over before that game's over. So yeah. But I want to be honest, even though I like IU, I'm from, local bias maybe. Well, I'm from Bloomington, but, St. Mary's versus Wyoming or Indiana. I predict Indiana is going to win that. Personal bias, plus they've been playing fairly well recently. But I think St. Mary's can beat either of them. Wyoming recently, not favored by the statistics, obviously. Haven't been playing incredibly well as of late. Not as much as St. Mary's or even Indiana, really. St. Mary's, I think, is a little more battle-tested than Wyoming. And kind of equally battle-tested against Indiana. I know Indiana plays in the Big Ten, has played overall more quantity of better teams. But St. Mary's has gotten a win against Gonzaga. They've played Gonzaga. They've played San Francisco. Quality teams. I think they're experienced. I think they're well coached. I think they're talented. I think they're kind of getting slept on just because people think IU can make a run here. I like St. Mary's. Give me them over either of the games. Whoever comes out of this game here in about an hour, however long this takes to finish up. Either of the teams I think St. Mary's will beat. But it would be cool to see IU get into the tournament. Next game is UCLA versus Akron. Akron, 13 seed. 4 seed being UCLA here. UCLA suggested by the analytics. So just about this game, give me UCLA. I think the stats show more favor towards UCLA. On top of that, I'm not very impressed with Akron's resume. Playing a worse conference, not as good as a resume as far as who they play and schedule and games they played and won and lost and everything. UCLA obviously in Pac-12, very competitive in that with some good teams in it. Basically returned all the key players of their Final Four run last year, and they're now healthy coming into the tournament and been playing fairly well. I like UCLA here. I don't think Akron is going to be too much of a problem for UCLA, so I think this is fairly safe. Next, you got Texas versus Virginia Tech. Stats seem to indicate Virginia Tech would win versus the 6 seed Texas Longhorns. But to be honest, give me Texas. This is going to be a popular upset pick with how Virginia has won the ACC championship and how they've been playing recently and the momentum they're bringing in. And also that 3-point percentage at 39 compared to 32 from Texas here really has me worried about this pick. To be honest, there's a few reasons I'm choosing Texas. First of all, this is a very popular upset pick. I don't enjoy picking those a lot unless I really feel confident about the upset pick, because generally this blow up in people's faces. Again, Texas lost first round as a 3 seed last year. I think that's a little motivation to not lose first round this year. I think the program needs to win this year, at least one game into the tournament. Beyond that, I think Texas fairly talented team. They play in a better conference in the Big 12 compared to the ACC, even though they didn't lose to TCU, unfortunately. I think they're a little more battle tested overall throughout the entire season. Um, yeah, I just have a feeling Texas is going to win. And I don't like choosing picks like this unless I'm absolutely sure Virginia Tech can keep this going, which I can't deny they've been playing very well recently, and they're a solid squad. I just don't know if they can keep that going against Texas. I don't know if that's going to come to an end. I think Texas really wants a win and needs a win in the tournament. I think they're a solid team from a good conference. I like Texas. That's Purdue versus Yale. Analytics favor Purdue in this game fairly heavily. Yale, obviously from the Ivy League, upsetting Princeton to get in as a 14 seed. Playing the 3 seed Purdue Boilermakers from the Big Ten, runners up to Iowa. I really like Purdue, especially against Yale. Pick that. I don't think Yale is going to be able to really handle them, especially their bigs. I think Purdue's offense is not going to be stopped by Yale. I don't think Yale's going to really put up much of a fight here. If this were Princeton, maybe a little better of a fight, but I still don't see Purdue. I think Purdue is one of the most talented teams. I think they're one of the better teams in the tournament. I really like them, and I'm not big on Yale. I don't really feel like they even should be here. I feel like Princeton should be here, but even if they were, I don't really particularly like the Ivy League. Not very strong this year. Purdue obviously a lot more battle tested and proven and talented overall as well. So yeah, give me Purdue. Don't know if you guys can hear that, but my family's getting quite emotional about the IU Wyoming game. Yeah, Wyoming got a 2-point lead, so yeah, figures. Next, we got a very difficult game to decide against fairly evenly matched teams, in my opinion. Both very talented and decent resumes. 17 Murray State Racers versus the 10 seed San Francisco Dons. I believe they're Dons. Hopefully I didn't mess that up, because I said that with a fair amount of confidence. So this is a game that requires a little more analysis. Suggested pick from the analysis of the stats here would suggest to pick the 7 seed Murray State Racers, which is a point for Murray State. Murray State's the champions out of the Ohio Valley Conference or something, OVC champs. 32 in the year, very good record, obviously, 30 wins, 2-1 against bracket teams, 0-1 against top 25 teams, and they got one loss outside of those parameters. So yeah, they've got 3 players who score 10 or more points a game, and are favored by the statistics. The San Francisco team, on the other hand, out of the WCC, I believe they're third maybe in that conference, behind Gonzaga and St. Mary. Third team to make it out of the WCC. Fairly talented conference, obviously, with St. Mary's and Gonzaga and them now this year. I think they're better coached. San Francisco is very well coached. I think they'll be well coached and prepared for the game and the tournament. I think, coming into the game, I think they're a little more battle tested than Murray State is. I know their record at 24-9 on the season is a little worse, obviously, than the 30 wins of Murray State, which is great for them. But that being said, San Francisco, I think, are better coached. I think they've played 8 games against a tournament opponent. Yes, they're 2-6 against bracket teams, but to take into consideration those games, I can't fully remember, but I doubt I would say that 5 or 6 of those games are against St. Mary's as well as Gonzaga, so very difficult teams to upset. Obviously, they're also 0-3 against top 25 teams, which again isn't a great record, and 3 losses outside of those. They got 3 players who score 10 or more points a game, which obviously is great to have on your team. Same as Murray State. But give me San Francisco. I know the stats suggest Murray State. They've got a good record. They're champs of their conference, Got a lot of momentum coming in. But I think San Francisco is better prepared. They're better coached. I think they're a more solid team. They've been battle tested and prepared for this against teams like St. Mary's and Gonzaga, even if they haven't beat Gonzaga like St. Mary's has. I think they're gonna win. Very close game. I can see it going either way. I just like San Francisco a little more. I wish they split these teams up because it was a very difficult decision to make. Kentucky versus St. Peter's. I think St. Peter's is a very bad team, even for a 15 seed. I like Kentucky all the way. Favored by, stats. 2 seed. They're Kentucky. Blue Bloods. Traditional. Very talented. Playing a tough SEC. Everything goes their way really in this matchup. Let's go up to the south. I like Arizona over Wright State or Bryant, whoever wins that. I think Bryant will, even though I think Wright State is the favorite and favored by the analytics. Bryant has the nation's leading scorer on it, so I think that's enough to at least beat Wright State and get them into the tournament. But I don't think either of these teams really pose much of a threat for a 1 seed Arizona, who's been playing very well. Pac-12 champions. Oh, God, another A9 game. We got the Seton Hall. I think they're Pirates, right? Hopefully, because Pirates Buccaneers, something like that. Versus the TCU Bullfrogs. This is a hard game. Seton Hall suggested pick from the stats here. Both teams not particularly good at 3. 4% better from Seton Hall. TCU had a Big 12, which I think is a better conference than the Big East, but both fairly competent, competitive conferences. Seton Hall has been a little spotty. They've been top 25, I believe, at some point in the year. Very good at the year, bad at other times. TCU, bit spotty, but coming into this, they got a big upset against Texas in the Big 12 conference tournament, which was really good to see. I don't know. I know the analysts suggest Seton Hall, and they are an 8 seed, but give me the 9 seed TCU Bullfrogs in this game. What it comes down to is, I think, as far as what it really comes down to for me is, I think Big 12 is better. I think they're better prepared for this game from who they've beaten and who they've played in their conference, particularly. As far as comparisons, TCU's 20-12, 5-8 against bracket teams, and 5-6 against top 25 teams, with 3 players scoring 10 or more points a game. On the other hand, Seton Hall from the Big East is 21-10. Fairly similar records, 7-8 against bracket teams, so more bracket teams played, and 3-6 against top 25 teams, which I believe is actually a little less than what TCU has played. And they have 2 players who score 10 or more points a game, so less 10 or more points scored players. I think, even though they played a lot of bracket teams and top 25 teams, I think some of those are like something like Xavier, maybe even like, I don't want to say Maryland because I don't feel like that's right, but teams I think are easier to beat and manage than what TCU has had to face the entire year, and they still got a 5-6 record against top 25 teams from TCU. So I like the Bullfrogs in this, but again, just flip a goddamn coin for these games. They could go either way. Next, we got the 5 seed Houston versus the 12 seed UAB, the University of Alabama at Birmingham, I believe. The Dragons. Hopefully that's right. I don't want to know what else the fuck they'd be called with that logo. So yeah, let's do a little quick analysis of this teams here. 5 seed Houston out of the ACC, champions of the conference, 29-5, 2-4 against bracket teams. 0-1 against top 25 teams. Losses to 1 team outside of those parameters of 6 players, a lot, who have scored 10 or more points a game on average. Comparatively, the 12 seed UAB, I really hope it's Dragons because I'm going to keep saying that. See the Conference USA champs, 27-7 on the year. which is fairly similar records. A little better from Houston. Against top 25 teams, they're 0-0 versus bracket teams. They're 0-1. They have 6 losses to teams outside of those parameters, and have 4 players who scored 10 or more points in a game, which is also very good, but 2 shy of Houston. Particularly, I don't think either of these teams play in a good conference. I think Houston, by default, just them being in, I guess Memphis as well, plays in a slightly better conference in the AAC or whatever, ACC. AAC, no, that's different conference. I think conference, they play in a slightly better conference. Obviously, they did get pretty far last year. But I like UAB for all the reasons I just listed, as well as I think, yeah, they're favored by stats. They shoot the 3-point very well at 38%. They have, God, I can't remember this dude's name, but I think its nickname is Jelly Walker, the guard for them, who is averaging a lot of points for them, can shoot the ball very well, carried them to a conference championship, and I think this team has the potential to beat Houston, and far be it for me to stand in the way of picking them. I like UAB here. Illinois versus Chattanooga. 2 teams I like a lot, actually. I think both these teams are pretty solid. Really unfortunate that Chattanooga got this draw. If they would have gotten another 4 seed, it would have been a lot easier to pick them. This game would have been a lot more decisive. But give me the Illinois Fighting Illini, I believe. Here, I know Chattanooga suggested by the analytics, and overall are a fairly solid squad. Southern Conference champs, 27-7 on the year. 3 players who scored 10 or more points a game. But Illinois, out of the Big Ten, is a little more battle tested than them. 22-9 on the year, 10-7 against bracket teams, 4-4 against top 25 teams. 4 players who scored 10 or more points a game. They got Kofi as a big man. Obviously, he's just unbelievable. A lot more talented, a lot more battle tested. I like Illinois here. And Chattanooga does a very solid team. I just don't think Illinois is going to lose early in the tournament like they did last year, particularly, and have a very talented team and a good conference they're coming from. Next, we got Colorado State versus Michigan. Jesus, I don't know how the fuck Michigan made it, I'm going to be honest. I like Colorado State in this game. They're suggested by the analytics here. Again, Mountain West Conference. Obviously not as good as the Big Ten, but very good this year. 6-3 versus bracket teams, which is a fairly good record and fairly battle tested. 25-5 on the year. 2 players who scored 10 or more points, compared to Michigan, who has 4 players who scored 10 or more points a game, which is 2 more. But 17 and 14, very spotty, fairly inconsistent, not playing great basketball, especially coming into the tournament. I'm honestly kind of shocked they got in, or at least weren't put in a play-in game over someone like Notre Dame or Rutgers. I was surprised they made the tournament, or at least weren't put into a play-in game. I'm not huge on Michigan at all. The stats don't really show it. The only thing they got going for them is they're a Big Ten team. But as you saw last year, that's really not enough to ride on. I like Colorado State. Very solid team here. Tennessee versus Longwood. I'm going to make this one quick. I like Tennessee. Stats suggest it. 3 seed over a 14 seed. SEC champions of a very tough conference. I saw them play through their championship and their tournament. Played very well versus a tough SEC. Got a lot of good wins. Longwood, yeah, conference championships as well. Can score very well, as you see here as well. But Tennessee, SEC champs, 26-7 in a very hard conference. 7-7 versus bracket teams. 7-5 versus top 25 teams. 0 losses to teams outside of those. 2 players putting up 10 or more points a game. Give me Tennessee all day. I'm really big on the Volunteers this year. Even though historically I know not amazing in the tournament, but this year's team looks very good and is hot coming in. Next, we got Ohio State versus Loyola Chicago. Loyola Chicago was the suggested pick from the stats. Now, everything personally tells me to take Loyola, but I'm going to take Ohio State in this game. I know it's not suggested by analytics. I just think they play in a harder conference. They're a little more battle tested. I think they've got one of the best players in the country in Liddell. I don't think Ohio State is going to lose another first round game. I think they're going to be pissed off coming in, wanting to get at least one win in the tournament. Loyola returned some of their team, but they lost their center, power forward, Kurtwig. I can't remember that dude's name or which one it is. It was a big part of the team and why they beat Illinois last year. Loyola, not insanely impressed by their resume this year. Ohio State, I know, has been pretty spotty, especially coming into the tournament when Loyola seems to have picked it up a little. But not as battle tested, not as impressed with the resume. And they don't really have, other than like Sister Jean being Loyola, they don't really have any massive thing that stands out to me that would make me pick them in an upset over Ohio State, who is a Big Ten team, is a battle-tested traditional team who has one of the best players in the country. Next, we got Nova versus Delaware. Give me Nova. Suggested Delaware's not a good team at all as a 15 seed. Nova, Big East champs, been playing very well. Very good team here. Kansas over Texas Southern or Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Well, as of recording, that game is over. It's Texas Southern. They will be playing. Obviously, Kansas 1 seed, suggested by the stats and every metric you could even possibly pull up. I know Texas Southern, very traditional bracket team. I swear to God, these fuckers get a 16 seed every year for some reason. But yeah, Kansas, very impressed with Kansas in every way. They are better than Texas Southern. I expect a blowout. Or at least a win. I don't really care if they blow them out, just win. Next, we got San Diego State versus Creighton. San Diego State, 8 seed, suggested by the stats. Overall, two fairly defensively sound teams. I'd say San Diego is a little better on defense, but both good defenses. I think Creighton scores a little better than San Diego State, though, as a whole. I think they don't have as good a defense, but I think they score a little better. San Diego State, not incredibly impressed with them. Just to give a quick analysis of the team, apart from the stats you can see on the screen, of course. San Diego State's from the Mountain West. Again, fairly tough division. 23-8, 5-6 versus bracket teams, 2-2 versus top 25. 2 losses outside of those metrics, and only 1 player with 10 or more points a game. Creighton, the 9 seed, on the other hand, out of the Big East, which I think is a better conference. 22-11, which isn't great, but they're a 9 seed. 7-7 versus bracket teams, 5-6 versus top 25. 2 losses outside of those metrics, with 4 players who score 10 or more points a game. I think better offense, fairly sound defense from Creighton, and more battle tested from a better conference. I saw them play against Providence, just dismantled them. Playing very good ball recently. Give me Creighton here. Next, we got the 5 seed Iowa Hawkeyes versus the 12 seed Richmond Spiders. Iowa suggested fairly heavily here by the analytics, and I'm going to take Iowa. Iowa Big Ten champs, great division champions, been playing very good. Are hot coming into this, suggested by the stats. Much more battle tested and more talented, and better in most ways than Richmond. Richmond barely got in over Davidson. I'm not entirely impressed with Richmond, so yeah, we're going with Iowa Hawkeyes here. Much better resume as a whole. Richmond really doesn't have much going for them other than the fact that they're champs of the A10, which isn't incredibly impressive. 11 losses outside of top 25 and bracket teams. Not incredibly impressed with Richmond. And Iowa, I'm very good on. Providence versus South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits. South Dakota State here is favored by the statistics. Go ahead and look at that 3-point percentage for me. Yeah, that's real. I'm going to be honest here. I absolutely love South Dakota State. It doesn't sound like I love them when I can't pronounce their name right. I predict them in an upset, 14 or 13 with a 4 seed here. They're just so good. They're coming in hot as any team in the bracket. Haven't lost a game in damn near a few months at least. Huge win streak. Um, Obviously coming off of a championship from their division, from the Summit League. 30-4 in the year, 1-1 versus bracket teams, 0-1 versus top 25. I think it was lost to Alabama early on. Three players who score 10 or more points a game. Providence, I know they're from the Big East, which is better than the Summit League, but just am not impressed with Providence. It seems like a lot of I know everyone and their mom is saying this, but it seems like a lot of the success has been due to luck. A lot of close games that they got lucky to win. Haven't been playing great basketball coming into the tournament. I saw them play Creighton in their conference tournament, just getting absolutely dismantled by Creighton, which is a 9 seed up there for reference. South Dakota State, very hot, very talented team, favored by the stats here. The best 3-point shooting team, and really just one of the best shooting teams in the entire country. Best 3-point shooting team in the country, which is very important to me. I think if they can shoot three as well and get hot, they can win this game and maybe a few others. I like South Dakota State a lot. Actually got LSU versus Iowa State. This game just sucks. I hate this game so much. LSU's obviously got some problems. They fired their head coach, a bit spotty throughout the year, but then again, they're favored by the stats. They're fairly talented. They play in the SEC, which is a fairly talented and competitive conference. They're a decent resume as well as teams have played, players on their team, records against, bracket teams and all that. Iowa State, on the other end, the 11 seed, coming into this game. Iowa State coming out of the Big 12, which is a good conference as well, 20-12, 6-8 versus bracket teams, 4-7 versus top 25. Two players who score 10 or more points a game, which I don't believe is as good as, from what I remember, is not as good as LSU. Yeah, they got 4. Favored by the stats, LSU. Iowa State, what they got going for them, Big 12, fairly fleshed out resume, just like LSU. One thing they have over LSU is they don't have a head coach that recently got fired, and they play very good defense. Iowa State, very good defense, but they're painfully bad almost at offense. They don't score very well. LSU plays some fairly good defense of their own. And on top of that, I think is better on offense. I think they're more talented. Yes, I know they fired their coach, but I like them to at least get past one game. I am not big on Iowa State. As we got the Wisconsin Badgers versus the Colgates. What are they called? I want to say Raiders. Wisconsin, the 3 seed. The Badgers play fairly close to home, about an hour away from where they are, I believe, which kind of helps. Wisconsin out of the Big 10, 24-7, 12-6 versus bracket teams, 5-3 versus top 25 teams, 0 losses outside of those, 3 players with 10 or more points a game. Fairly decent team here, very solid. Big 12, experienced, battle-tested team. What can I say? As far as the Colgate boys here, the 14 seed, who are favored by the analytics, actually, as a suggested pick. Colgate out of the Patriot League, champions after beating Navy. They are the 1 seed in that championship. They're 23-11 on the year. Versus bracket teams, they're 0-1. Versus top 25, they're 0-0. They've got 10 losses to teams outside of those parameters. Playing fairly good basketball towards the end of the season, though. They've got 5 players who have scored 5 or more points, which is very good. Fairly experienced, talented squad, as much as Colgate can be. Experienced squad. I think they really want to win after almost winning last year. I think their stats are great. They shoot the 3 damn near better than anyone in the tournament at a 40% 3-point percentage on the year. Give me the upset here. I know Wisconsin's going to be a popular pick. Might be a fairly popular pick from what they did last year. And Colgate here, Colgate with their 40% three-point shooting, I think, and their fairly fleshed out experience, deep roster, 5 points, 5 players with 10 or more points a game, great three-point shooting experience. I think they're going to get a win this year. I think they can get hot. They can score. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a good game. But I think Colgate can sneak in a win over Wisconsin, who, yeah, fairly battle-tested from the Big Ten. But overall, not incredibly impressed with these guys. Not really a 3 seed to me. I think Iowa should have gotten this from someone even from their own conference. I think Iowa was more deserving of this. If they were a 5 seed and they played Richmond, honestly, that'd be a better matchup for them. But yeah, I think Colgate can get a win here. Let's just go to here. Auburn, like them, stats suggest them they're better in basically every category you can imagine, like 3-point shooting, which is kind of scary that they shoot 39% from 3. If 15 versus 2 was going to happen, I'd say it might be Jacksonville State over Auburn, but I think Auburn's talented, 2 seed, suggested by the stats, fairly battle-proven. Jacksonville State, on the other hand, all they got going for them in my books is their 3-point shooting potential. They shouldn't even really be in the conference or in the tournament, I believe. They didn't even win their conference tournament. So, yeah, not really big on Jacksonville State. Next, we got USC versus Miami. Miami suggested fairly closely there by the analytics. Few better 3-point, which I like. As far as the 10-7 matchup goes here, let's get some notes out on these teams. I know a decent amount about them, but just to make sure I get everything else other than the stats you can see here right. The 7 seed USC from the Pac-12, 26-7 on the year, 2-4 versus bracket teams, 1-4 versus top 25, 3 losses outside of them with 4 players who scored 10 or more points. On top of that, they got Mobley's brother, fairly talented squad. And the Miami out of the ACC, 23-10, 3-4 versus bracket teams, 1-2 versus top 25, 6 losses outside of those, with also 4 players in the 10 or more points category. I've seen Miami play a little more than USC. I feel like I trust Miami a little more for them being a 10 seed. They've been playing fairly good basketball recently. I saw them beat Boston College, which was a good win. They played fairly well against, I believe, Duke recently. I'm not a huge fan of either of these teams, but I like Miami a little more. And maybe it's a little more biased for me just watching them more from the ACC. But I think I trust Miami a little more to get a win here. I think this is a fairly safe upset. But USC could also win. They seem fairly talented as a player raw talent basis goes. So another hard game to predict here, but I'm going to take Miami. Okay, so we got the first round filled out. Let's go back up to the West here. Gonzaga versus Boise State. Gonzaga obviously suggested here. I'm going to take Gonzaga to advance over Boise State. Or Memphis if they run on. I don't know who's playing them in this round. Gonzaga just West Coast Conference champions in a fairly good conference this year. Probably the best team in college basketball. Probably the favorites to win. Very talented squad. Analytics love these guys as well, as you can see here. I don't think they'll have a problem against Boise State. I think they'll be better in basically every category than them. Their resume, their coaching, their talent, and their resume and battle proven this. I don't know what the correct form of that word is much more impressive than Boise State's. I like Gonzaga fairly safely here. UConn versus Vermont. I like UConn ending Vermont's upset streak here. UConn, I like what I saw from UConn. I feel like they're fairly talented. They got good bigs. I think they can manage Vermont. I think they're more talented. I think they can do a better job of managing it than Arkansas. I think they'd also beat Arkansas, honestly, if they get in here. I like what I've seen from UConn for playing the Big East, which is fairly good. Yeah, I like UConn here. Montana State versus Rutgers and Notre Dame. I really want to take Montana State again. I would love for these guys to somehow, in God's name, get to the Sweet 16. But I'll take the play-in winners of Rutgers and Notre Dame. I'm really tempted to take Montana State there, and analytics would suggest it. I just want to cover myself a little there. I'm already taking a big risk just by picking them at all. I think Rutgers and Notre Dame, they're a bit spotty, but they've gotten quality wins and some fairly talented players and decent rosters. I think they can beat Bama, and I think they could beat Montana State if they got here, and I think they have a potential to beat Texas Tech if they got here as well. Just by high-end quality wins that they both gotten, but yeah, I just like them here more. Duke versus Michigan State University. I like Duke here, favored by the stats. I think Michigan State, I barely had them past Davidson in the first round. Just not that impressed with them this year. I think Duke's way more talented. I think they're better coached. I think they're prompted for a better run overall here. Baylor versus UNC. I think UNC could give them some problems. They're talented. They're well coached. They're big, lengthy, good at scoring, getting boards. I think Baylor is just more talented, even with the hiccups they've been having towards the end of the season. I think their skill, talent, and resume, and battle readiness from the Big 12 gets them to at least the Sweet 16. Although I could see a merit in the North Carolina pick there. St. Mary's versus UCLA. This is a hard game to pick for me. 4-5 game. Both these teams are fairly proven. I like both these teams, but I'm going to take UCLA. They've got the full, 5 guys back from the Final Four run. I think people are kind of sleeping on them a little somehow, even though this is the exact team that made a Final Four run, basically. St. Mary's, I really like the team. I think they're good. I think they're battle-proven as well, just like UCLA. I just think it's more UCLA comfort here for me to get there. Texas and Purdue. I like Purdue. I don't really like Texas or Virginia Tech coming out of that. I'm not a huge fan of either teams. I think Purdue's very talented. I think analytics suggest them. I also think Purdue, much more talented, much better team, more proven. They have had a few hiccups over the course of the season. Depending on what Purdue shows up, this could be a trap game for them. But I trust Purdue to make it past either of those teams, really. But Texas in this case. University of Kentucky versus San Francisco. I like Kentucky in this. I was tempted to take San Francisco into the Sweet 16 here, but Kentucky, I think, just talented enough to get past. I'm not a huge fan of Kentucky. I haven't really cared for what I saw from them for most of the year. I think they're fairly talented, which is why I think it's enough just to get them passed into the Sweet 16. And their stats are better. They play in a better conference. That's why I'm choosing Kentucky to go here. All chalk in this so far, other than San Francisco win here. It's been straight chalk here. Well, you gotta have one region like that, right? Arizona versus TCU. Arizona suggested are the 1 seed Pac-12 champions. Very talented, good squad, battle proven. These guys have been playing amazing recently. TCU I like a lot. I think they're a solid squad. I just like Arizona. They're a very good team. UAB versus Illinois here. Very interesting game here. I like both of these squads a lot. And I'm very tempted to hit that UAB button. They're suggested by the stats. They've got a very high-powered offensive team, a very good player. I just think Illinois has a little more oomph to get there. I like Kofi. I don't think UAB has anyone to deal with him. I think he's going to have a field day with UAB. I think UAB makes it maybe interesting, but I think Illinois is more talented, more proven, more ready to make it past them. CSU versus Tennessee. I like Tennessee. SEC champs. Very good defensive team. Can also score on the offensive side fairly well. Have been playing very good basketball. Colorado State's a solid team. Good enough to get past the first round, just not good enough to get past Tennessee. Again, getting a little chalky here. And it's going to stay chalk. I like Villanova over Ohio State. Villanova, I saw them win the Big East Championship. They're looking very good, playing good basketball now, favored by stats. A little more consistent and proven, I'd say, than Ohio State. Other than Liddell, I think Villanova gets past fairly easily. Dang, it is getting chalky in here. Other than 11 seed I got here, I was so tempted to take UAB there. I could see them winning that game. I just don't like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 5, 11. Fuck it, give me UAB. I could take either team you want, honestly. Don't even follow what I say. Just take whatever team you have a better gut feeling about. Creighton versus Kansas. I like Kansas a lot. Big 12 champs. 1 seed. I think Kansas got one of the most talented teams I've ever seen. One of the best, if not the best player in the country. Suggested by stats. Incredible resume. Good coaching. I mean, Creighton, solid squad. Good Big East wins. I saw them beat Providence. Very good. Solid defense. Okay offense. Just good enough to get past the first round. But I don't think Kansas is an entire different beast. And I don't think they can handle them. Iowa versus South Dakota State. Give me South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Iowa, I know, has been playing very good, and they beat IU, who was playing very good, to win. They beat Purdue. I just think they get past the first round fairly easily. I think they run into a fairly similar team, very offensively powered as well. I think South Dakota State damn near, honestly, just outperforms them on offense. And I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think South Dakota State, I just almost trust a little more the score. So that's why I'm taking them. I think South Dakota State's got great Cinderella potential. LSU versus Colgate here. Give me Colgate. I do not like LSU at all. I didn't like Iowa State either, to be honest. I think Wisconsin or Colgate, whoever gets out of this first round, is making it to the Sweet 16 fairly easily. In this case, Colgate shoots very well. Coming in fairly hot into the tournament. They still have their regular head coach. Shoot the ball very well. Another Cinderella potential team right here. Got Miami versus Auburn. I like Miami's squad. I could see them upsetting Auburn, but I'll trust Auburn to get past them just off the basis of the stats, what they've proven they can do talent-wise and resume-wise throughout the season. I'll trust them to get another game in. Go up here to try the Elite Eight. Gonzaga and Uconn. I'd like to advance Uconn, but Gonzaga is just, I can't find a reason to bet against them. Stat-wise, they're better. Talent-wise, coaching-wise, they're better. I mean, resume-wise and what they've done, they're better. It's just, there's nothing here. Give me Duke. Give me the 1-2 game there. Rutgers and Notre Dame, whoever makes it here, I don't think can beat Duke. Duke's very talented, well coached. I think Coach K is getting into the Elite Eight in his last year. Stat-wise, Duke is better too. Give me them. UCLA versus Baylor. Give me Baylor. I don't think Baylor's going to be picked very far in most brackets. I think they can still make it to the Elite Eight after winning the championship last year just off of raw talent and battle readiness from the Big 12. And stat-wise, they're suggested as well. So that's why I like them. But UCLA could easily beat them, man. That is a very hard game to decide for me. Next, we got Purdue and Kentucky. Give me Purdue, the 3 seed here. Kentucky, I'm not a huge fan of them. I think they've got decent talent, okay coaching. Not as impressed with the resume as I am with Purdue. I think Purdue's as talented, if not more talented. Better offense, better team overall, I feel like, from Purdue here. We got Zona and UAB. Give me Zona. And if this is Illinois, I'd choose Arizona over them too. Arizona suggested by the stats. Pac-12 champs. I mean, very battle-proven record. Very talented team that's playing well. I mean, no reason not to pick them here. Nova and Tennessee. Give me Tennessee. This is going to be a very good game if it happens. Very close game. Both very talented teams. I think Tennessee should have been a 2 seed in the first place. SEC champs, been playing very well. Got good defense. Got a solid team overall. Suggested by the stats over Villanova in the game. Give me Tennessee. And you got Kansas and South Dakota State. South Dakota State, very fun and very weirdly suggested by the stats here. Mainly probably because of their shooting. But give me Kansas, the 1 seed, Big 12 champs. Kansas is one of the most talented squads, again, that I've ever seen. Got the best player in college basketball, very well coached. Very traditional team. I feel like they're almost overdue for a deep run or a championship here. I like South Dakota State a lot, but give me Kansas here. Colgate versus Auburn. Give me Auburn here. Give me the chalk at the end. I think Auburn is talented enough to make a deep run despite their hiccups here and get to the Elite Eight. Also, stat-wise, they're suggested. Gonzaga versus Duke. Give me Gonzaga. I think they make it out of the Western Conference or region here fairly easily. I think Gonzaga is better stat-wise, talent-wise, maybe not coaching-wise, or fairly evenly battle-proven teams here. I just think Gonzaga's a better team. They've been playing better. They didn't lose to Virginia Tech in their conference championship. Duke's had a very talented squad, but had some hiccups with playing, and they're fairly young as well. So, give me Gonzaga. I think they're poised for another Final Four run at least. Baylor versus Purdue. Give me Purdue. I think Purdue's poised for a Final Four run at least. Very talented squad here. I think they've got the potential with the way their offense is, with the way their talent is, with what they've proven they can do throughout the season, what the stats say. I think Purdue has the potential to beat Baylor and make a Final Four run here, and I like Purdue. Arizona versus Tennessee. Give me Tennessee. I think they're poised for a deep run as well. I think they've been playing very well again, SEC champs. This is going to be a very good game, very close game. I could see it going either way. Very good, talented squads on both sides here. I just think Arizona maybe run into a wall here with the SEC champs that are hot, been playing well. They've got a better defense than probably anyone they've been played so far in the tournament at least, with a very solid offensive attack coming back at them. I think Tennessee gets by just barely in this game. Kansas versus Auburn here. Give me Kansas. I'm not a huge fan of Auburn. I just think it's a fairly laid out path for the 1 and 2 seed to make it to the Elite Eight. I think Kansas is better stat wise, talent wise, coaching wise, battle readiness, improvedness wise from the Big 12 and the champions of that conference. Give me Kansas. Gonzaga versus Purdue in the Final Four game here. This is a hard game to choose for me. I really like Purdue, and I want a reason to get Gonzaga out because I don't know if I trust them fully. But very difficult. Gonzaga obviously suggested by the metrics. Very proven resume, just like Purdue, with a little less spottiness than Purdue. It's just so hard to justify picking against Gonzaga, the number 1 overall seed. Especially when it's a 3 seed Purdue. That's been a little spotty over the entire run. But I feel like if they can get to the Final Four, if they're this high, they're playing this well, I feel like Purdue has a chance to beat them here. But realistically, making a pick, trying to take bias out of the equation, fuck it, give me Purdue. I think Purdue, if they get to this point, can make it a championship run. If they get to the Final Four of the Elite Eight, I think they're poised to make a deeper run and really just have it almost be their year at least. Tennessee versus Kansas. Give me Kansas, the 1 seed, to make it from the Midwest, from the Big 12. I think Big 12 is better than the SEC champs. I think they're better on offense than Tennessee, just as good, if not, a little worse, I guess, on defense than Tennessee. I think they're more talented, they're better coached, they're more proven, they're Kansas, they're more traditional, a little safer of a pick, very talented, got the best player in college basketball, very good squad here. The finals, 3 seed Purdue versus the 1 seed Kansas here. Actually has Purdue suggested, but overall, my champions, give me the Kansas Jayhawks. I think they've got one of the best teams in the entire bracket, if not the best team here. I think they're overdue and poised for a championship run. I think they've got the best player in college basketball, also a very talented squad surrounding them. They got solid coaching. They got the tradition. They got the blue blood running through them. They've got, I mean, just what don't they have? I know the stats don't suggest them, which has Purdue going for them. They're the Big 12 champions, which is probably the best, if not, one of the best conferences in the game. They're champions of, unlike Purdue. Very battle-tested, proven record here. And games they've played, they win so many great games. They've won the games they're supposed to. I watched the tournaments. Purdue played well, but was a little spotty, especially against someone like Iowa. Kansas, on the other hand, I've seen them just take care of business time after time again. I think Kansas finally gets it done and are the national champions for the 2022 men's tournament. As far as the tiebreaker, I feel like it's going to be a fairly high-scoring game. Give me 76 Kansas, 72 Purdue. Yeah, that's the tiebreaker there. I feel like it's going to be in the 70s somewhere if this game were to happen. And finish my bracket. Congratulations to the Jayhawks and my prediction for winning the national championship. And that does it for the bracket prediction video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Maybe learned something. Maybe, felt more confident in picks, either because I gave a dumb reason for picking something and you just doubled down on your reason, or I brought attention to something to you. I know this channel doesn't get a lot of subscribers or viewers, but if a bunch of people view this and subscribe and want to bracket pool in the next couple of days, I will put that out if we want. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, thought it was interesting, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below what upset teams you got, who you got winning, games you like to share, and see you guys in the next video.